Yeah, so we're there now. But that's probably one of the worst things that I hate about doing this. Let's see. Now we get to send people to this podcast that just went live. That'd be great. And I don't know if you can see it too. I can send it to you in a private chat if you want, so you can send it out if you want to.
Oh,
let me see what I got here.
Yeah, I don't see it in there.
Because you have a significantly larger subscriber count than me, so.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean nothing today.
Yeah, I've seen people with 1 million subs and their live stream numbers are not that good.
Yeah. I've seen people with 1 million subs, barely getting 20K views. So it's different now, man.
Yeah, it's oof. I guess those people the people that sub, they sub and forget.
Yep, and then YouTube's new way ain't helping nothing.
Yeah, definitely ain't. Especially if you get marked for anything, it's a wrap from there on. So I see a lot of people that should be a lot more popular than other people out there, and they're getting like they're crumb siding it for sure. So let's see if I can get the chat to pop up here. They'll try to keep the normal chat on the side. So it normally stays here. Okay, yeah. Okay, I see I got Terminator Juice in here. What's up? Yeah, we see y'all.
Birdman. I didn't even say anything to them yet.
Yeah, they already here. So, Terminator Juice on Switch Pro coming soon. Jesus Lord. Already. I was trying to get at least 10 people in here before we get started. That's Legend of Josh in there. I see you. Brian Smith.
Yeah. And I mean I'll rip it and just drop it on my channel too later, but let's see. What am I doing here?
If you need me to download it and send it to you, I can too. It depends on however you want to do it. Whatever. It's a million YouTube rippers out there, so okay. Yeah. So
yeah, let me go back. I screwed up. I did something. Okay, I'm gonna try it again.
And Terminator said, I wear my sunglasses at night. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I wear mine all the time because I have 5 screens. It'd be a lot of. This is what you'll end up seeing. You'll see this the whole time. So
yeah,
that's why I try to keep these on.
Better for your eyes. So
for the glare, definitely.
Yeah,
that's why I don't really game on PC like most people expect you to do all this. I don't do. I sit as far back from the screen as possible, and definitely with the lights on. And when I game in the loft or the living room, obviously that's different,
right?
Because I'm so much further away. But we gotta get more people to come in here so we can get to fighting. Us Nintendo fans gotta fight each other. Like, get more people in the chat. At least more people in the chat. I don't know about the live views. I can't really see that. Well, I can, but I don't want to hear double. Then you'll hear that loop right there. So. I'm trying to take this and move it to the side here so we can get something going. Birdman said, "Where's MVG?" Oh, Jesus Lord! Nah, I'll never be on that podcast again. I would never. What was that?
What's up with MVG?
Oh, I did a whole podcast going over one of the videos that he put up.
Oh yeah, I saw some of it.
Yeah, but he wouldn't. It's not really him. It's going to be Nate the Hate. That's more than anything.
Talking about developing for Switch and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I'm like, yes. So Spawn Wave will never have me on again. I don't think, more than anything, which is crazy because I'm about to do a video that's kind of like we had kind of collabed on before because we were trying to go back and forth and compare information to figure out. And I saw your video earlier today too, and I know you had mentioned the Joy-Con drift. And I think I actually came down to a solution. It's crazy when you think of it. It's not going to be what you think it is. But I'm going to test it first, and once I have a real solid basis of it, then I'll come out with a video and explain.
You talking about repairing it?
Yes, like permanent repair. So I think that'll be a good video to put out. Similar to my Wii U USB video a long time ago. Y'all go check that out. Shameless plug. But I mean, because it was so much misinformation out there. People didn't know the voltages. They didn't know what type of drives were supported. All that kind of stuff. So I was like, you let me lay this down.
Right.
And I don't know. So it looks like we got. Why do we have?
We're close. I mean,
yeah, I'm looking at.
We just hit 10.
Yeah, we just hit 10. So that's good. So okay. So yeah, we'll do the non-normal stuff because what we should have been already just talking about whatever is how we normally do it. Like I would already had a drink in my hand or something like that, but nope, we doing water today. We hydrating, gotta be healthy, guys. But no, I have with me Mizzah Tee. Me and you haven't done a podcast in a very long time together, and it's been a long time going all the way back to those pre I think those are Francis days.
The crazy Wii U years.
Yeah. Were you a Wii U weirdo for playing an HD console? But yeah, so we should have done this a long time ago anyway. Over, I didn't even really think it was a disagreement.
I didn't think it was that long ago, but it was like a year ago we were talking.
It was a year. It was legit a year.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, so I started looking in Twitter. I looked I was like, whoa, like the last one was literally a year ago. That's crazy. But time goes by real quick. So I mean, you go back a while. My channel didn't start. I was a lurker for a long time, and I was a subscriber to your channel for a real long time. Back in the 480p days, you and Nia and everybody else. Everybody hates Chris. That's what some people call him, but it was way back when. And at that time, I was a forum goer on G4 for a while. Some of the people that follow me on here, they go that far back and they know what that was all about. And I had a blog with another guy named Xantar way back in the day on another site called Nintendo's way back in the day. We're talking about stuff that damn near dates along with N64.com. At this point. So before it was IGN.
IGN, or was it just N64.com?
Yeah, it was N64.com. Yeah. And then Snowball came in and bought them, and the rest is history. And I tried to being a freelancer for them is not fun. But we'll go ahead. So I have Mizzah Tee with me. You can go ahead and introduce your channel. Not that you need to. I mean, like you've got almost 5 times the engagement as me, but
just go ahead. Like we were saying beforehand, that don't mean a whole lot on YouTube these days, but
definitely facts.
Mizzah Tee, or Big T, if you will, the Mizzah Tee channel. When did I start? 2014? No, it's 2013, right? Yeah, probably late 2013. Started doing videos. Started off with I don't have them near me, but using Mr. T Doll to do commentary on Nintendo and all that good stuff. Most of you guys probably know me, but here we are today. Still do it once in a while. I mean, I don't upload as much, and I don't really get into the editing the way I used to, but maybe that'll change. We'll see. But yeah, so that's me.
I would ask what you've been gaming on, but you have every fucking thing. So you've probably been playing damn 280i games or 240i games. Ain't no telling,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I have 6 or 7 systems hooked up at once, so I jump between them all the time. I should be playing more modern stuff, but I end up doing way too much retro gaming. But you play what you're familiar with, that's how it is. But
as much as I bitch about Wii U and Switch on Twitter, just because the engagement there is something that leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, for the past couple of weeks, I've been off and on playing Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I've barely been playing it because I finally found, well, my wife finally found my memory cards digging through some old pictures of ours, and she found the memory cards from my GameCube. And this is a GameCube that survived Iraq at some point. So I went to go dig up some of those saves. So I'm going through and I'm playing Day of Reckoning 1 and 2. I'm playing Eternal Darkness, and I forgot how good those games were. And they actually look good on a 4K screen. And I'm like, I didn't scale it. It's just
I was gonna say, do you have a converter or not?
I do, but I didn't double it. So I just left it at 480p 60 in the middle of the screen and let it be at its true aspect ratio, so I can see it as like the fake widescreen, the anamorphic widescreen right in the middle. And it still looks clean. The only thing that you'll pick up is sometimes where you could tell the developer tested on the TV instead of a monitor. You can see things like texture overlap, like scenes. You can see that kind of stuff. So like the line down the middle in between us, that's not supposed to be there in the game, but it will be there in some games depending on where a corner is. So I saw that a couple of times in Eternal Darkness, and I think I saw it in Wario World, believe it or not. But that's that's the only things you'll really come across, and that's stuff you wouldn't see on the CRT TV. So it still looked clean to me. But yeah, I haven't really even been gaming like I should have been, because I've been gaming on old school stuff. To be honest with you, stuff's still fun. I like the GameCube controller, which leads to one of the videos you were talking about how durable that thing is. But your mileage will vary. So so
that's not the case for everybody, but
not for everybody. Not for everybody. So I guess we'll get the fake drama out of the way first. So the thing that I kind of want to bring in is let's see if I can get this guy in here, if it'll pop up for me. Let's see. Yeah, let's get this guy in here. All right, so this foolishness here. Okay, so we have a little bit of we both share followers a lot, right? And they just having fun on here, whatnot.
Alonzo, he follows me too.
Yeah. So I get, so we both trade blows doing this a lot, and I've been doing this for a real long time, because just like you were saying in your video, like a lot of people slipped on with you, and they really shouldn't have been. Like, this is hilarious because I'm rocking the badge right now and everything for the, there are no excuses. They went to major cities to show you what this was. And when you went there, they told you it's a new console from Nintendo. It's HD. There's the box right there, the little thing right there that's, you shouldn't care about. And here's the screen. So I really don't understand the whole, is it an addition to the Wii? Like, none of the people there at E3 or any of the other experiences told you that. So I don't, it's like they manufactured that one. But anyways, so here's the thing that we quote unquote fought over. So he's talking about basically saying, hey, look, y'all out here clowning, talking about Nintendo Switch Online and everything is missing and all that. Y'all had a whole ass virtual console on Wii and then continued on to Wii U. Wii U even better, because it kept everything that was on your Wii if you transfer your saves over. And it added all kind of crap. DS games, it added DS game support complete with the dual screen thing on there. And virtual console games that had support directly on the gamepad. Like, that kind of stuff you can't really mimic anywhere else. And it didn't get love. Like, I know before in the other video you said, hey, 13 million of us bought this, right?
But before you go any further than that, because that was the point I was going to make. Is that, again, we're dealing with Twitter, right? So you may not be able to say everything you want to say in a tweet.
Yes,
I totally understand that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get on here. So because then people jump in, and then the thread goes somewhere else, and that I didn't want any of that noise, right? So my thing is, I was responding to the tweet and what it says in the tweet. So that's my thing. So I can't. You're right about how the media did Wii U. All that stuff. I mean, I feel the same way. You've seen videos from years about me talking about that stuff. So that's not the issue. My issue was with the tweet and what it actually says in the tweet. So if we can read that, I can't really see it myself on the screen here. But
I don't know if it'll let me zoom in, but I kind of.
Oh wait, maybe I just. Okay, I can see it.
Okay.
All right. So it says, me seeing everyone upset about the Nintendo Online offering, but those same folks, those are the key words for me.
Yeah.
Those same folks didn't support the Wii U when they were offering the classic games people say they want. Haha, you're getting what you deserve. I have no problem with that. I know that's jokey right there. Haha, you're getting what you deserve. I'm not mad. I didn't get mad by it. But my thing was, and we got into a thing about straw man and all that kind of stuff. My thing was, what he's saying in this tweet is that the people that are upset are the same folks that didn't support the Wii U. And that's my issue. My issue was like, that is not true.
Yeah.
Not everybody, obviously, not everybody who was, supported the Wii U is saying these things, but a lot of us are. Like I have an issue with how, because it's about Switch Online. So Switch Online is not good, right? So that's my, and a lot of people like me's premise. But here I am. I did support Wii U. I also have an issue with Switch Online. So that's where I'm sticking at. But those same folks, he could have fixed that by saying, but some of those folks or many of those, but he didn't say that. He said those same folks, like nobody complaining about it actually supported Wii U. And that's my thing, is like, that's just not true. It's just factually not true. Now, I understand why you put a tweet like that up, because the reaction, is like, ha ha ha, screw you guys. But there's a lot of us who did support Wii U that also don't like what's going on with Switch Online. So that's, where I'm coming from.
So at this point, it would be, I guess we should probably have him on here, where he could say, like, what do you?
It's kind of weird talking about his tweet, you know,
because we don't know whether he meant you or not specifically, or people like you, because there were a couple other people saying the same thing that did support Wii U, just like I know you.
My issue was that to make that assumption, like nobody who's mad about this actually supported Wii U, and that's just categorically false. I mean, that's just not true.
Okay, I could see that. If he wasn't talking about you guys, though, how does that?
I mean, there are some.
You know who those people are? Like,
yeah, of course. There's some people out there who they
wouldn't have bought Switch anyway. I don't think.
But just because they are those people who are complaining doesn't mean they're not making a valid complaint. Like, it still is a valid complaint, no matter where it's coming from on this specific situation. It's still a valid complaint. Yeah, you can say, well, you didn't support Wii U, but 13.5 million of us did support Wii U, and we should have the right to complain about it without saying nanny nanny boop.
Okay. So
you guys, are stuck with, why should I be stuck with Switch Online? Because nobody supported the Wii. And to me, that is a false premise as well, because it's like, well, the Wii U didn't fail because it had.
It was profitable. It was
profitable. I'm saying it didn't fail, quote unquote fail, like, media wise. What do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Public opinion wise, it didn't fail because it had better online. Like, that to me is a weird premise. It's like, here's a Wii U, had all these things, but you guys didn't care. Well, there was other issues that a lot of people had with the Wii U that had nothing to do with those good things that it had as far as features and whatnot. Because I don't think anybody's saying, man, the Wii U has, better online than Switch, or better, pretty decent, streaming apps and all this stuff. I'm not supporting it because it has that. Nobody said that. Nobody's like, oh, I'm not going to get a Wii U because it has, Netflix. That's not why the Wii U, quote unquote, failed. So to pull that out and say, well, that's why you guys shouldn't have good online, because you didn't support a system that had good online. Well, what else were the issues that people might have had with the system? I'm sure it had nothing to do with, some of it had to do with, the online wasn't as good as like the other guys.
You talking about Wii U?
Kind of ridiculous because it was free. Like, you can't compare it to, what, Xbox One and PS4 was doing, because they had to pay for that stuff, right? So,
but that's the same holds true for Switch too, though, because you pay a third of the price.
That is true. But again, I'm glad you brought that up, because my premise on that is like, well, why are you forcing me? And you are forcing me to basically pay for SNES, NES Online, which I don't care about at all, just so I can play online. Like, why don't you offer a tier system where it's like, oh, if you want, because honestly, they can make more money if they did it like a Netflix thing. It's like, okay,
if it was like $7 or
right, you can do that monthly. Yeah. You can charge $7 monthly for other people to have that. Just let me have I just want to play online, you know.
That's what the press is asking for too, to rent the games or whatever.
Right. So that's my thing. And again, I didn't feel like this was going to be a debate. It's just setting kind of the record straight and not having to do it on Twitter, because again, like I said, people jump in and they have a different perspective of what's going on. Then I have to go talk to this dude and go talk to that guy, what I'm trying to say. And it's just, I ain't want to do none of that. So I guess what I would ask is that how you feel? Because so you kind of reiterated in your second comment about it.
So a lot of the stuff that you were saying, period. Yes, I agree with it definitely personally. But I do the nanny boo boo thing for people that aren't you, because there are a lot of people that bitched about Wii U just a bitch. They were never going to buy it anyway. And a lot of people that either were forced to buy Switch because now it's the popular console. And the press couldn't say nothing negative about it anymore. And you see everybody and their grandma buying one, so now you have one. Even after you shitted on it when it first got announced, you said the same things. Like, it only has 32 gigs of RAM, just like Wii U. It's got limited support. I don't only see Skyrim, but what else are they going to port? It's going to be too weak. There won't be these ports. And then the ports come. Then the first thing you do is say, the game that I said wasn't going to run, it runs the worst.
It doesn't run as good.
So you move the goalpost, and now you have no choice but to buy this console. And then now you have this console, and now you wanna bitch about it not doing what Wii U did. And I'm like, but you didn't buy Wii U. Yeah. So
I get that. Like,
that's not you, obviously, but
right. That's my thing. This should have been worded better. We wouldn't be here right now probably if they had Alonzo, and I don't want to pick on Alonzo because he's a good dude. Yeah, and that's.
But I'm glad it happened, because this conversation needs to happen.
Yeah, so. but that's one reason I didn't mention his name, because I don't know who followed me, and if they're gonna go try to like mess with him and all. I ain't want none of that. I want no part in that. So, my thing was like, again, he should have probably worded it differently. It's like saying, well, those of you who didn't support Wii U for blah blah blah, you know what I'm saying, instead of just lumping everybody in together. That's why I always have an issue with. I always take issue when people lump things and lump everybody in. And I felt like I'm being lumped in with people, like you're saying, is that who didn't support Wii U.
We are clearly outliers from what he's saying.
Right. So, but even on that premise, it's like, are you satisfied with what Switch is offering online, regardless of how you feel about what happened with Wii U? And maybe some of these people don't deserve, because that's kind of where it went. Like, you don't deserve to have good online because you didn't support Wii U, which I don't think that's a good premise either.
People that own the Wii U definitely don't. And I won't even say that even the people bitching that only own Switch and are just now playing these Wii U games, I won't say that they deserve it either. But they did have the opportunity, and they still have the opportunity. The console is still online. You can buy it right now secondhand, and you can go online and download whatever you want on Virtual Console. Yeah. But there's so many people that just absolutely refuse to do it because Wii U dog shit is the first thing that comes in their mind. It's one of those things where whatever the Overton window is, or whatever the belief is about that system, it's more powerful than the system itself. And I'm like, and then you buy the Wii U games on the popular console and not on the Wii U, and then claim the system didn't have the games. And I'm like, but you're playing them on Switch. It's one of those weird scenarios where it's the what are my friends playing type scenario versus do I even want to play it because it's fun to me. And that's a social gamer kind of situation, I think, more than anything else. And I'm not going to speak for him, but I know when I poo-poo on that, that's what I'm targeting. I'm obviously not even speaking for myself because I supported the fucking thing. I came up with a detailed video, like
clearly.
Yeah, Terminator Juice was talking about. He was talking about how he had to use a Y cable for his hard drive. You have to get a certain type of hard drive that supports 1.5 volts or less, and then you don't need a Y cable.
You need the Y cable, right?
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff where I was just like, certain amounts of information were not there, and the information that was there was painted in such a bad light that people missed out on. I really want to say would have been a great system, because you can tell me all up and down, hey, Grand Theft Auto 5 can't run on Wii U and all this other kind of stuff. You can come up with those excuses, and I'm like, so what's the excuse for? And I said this on another podcast. What's the excuse for Vice City not being there, or San Andreas? And how awesome would that be with your map on the gamepad? Like, just things like that. And obviously, there's no answer for that, because we know there's a long beef with Nintendo and then DMA Design. So they're never, and I'm gonna say this again, there will never be a major Rockstar game on a Nintendo system until they have an announcement together. Like, they came together and figured this out. Rockstar isn't just gonna say, hey, out of nowhere, hey, we support the Switch, or hey, we support the successor to the Switch. That's not gonna ever happen. Not without them talking together.
But my thing is, like, here's the thing. Like, even if that's a true premise, to me, it's kind of emotional, because I mean, Nintendo is a business, right? So they can't react emotionally to what happened with Wii U, right? They can't say, well, nobody supported Wii U, so we gonna, screw everybody, who get in the Switch, with the online and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to do that, right? That's just not what businesses do. They don't react. Hopefully they don't react emotionally. So even if you felt like, or even if Nintendo felt like, well, the people on Wii U, or people who may have bought a Wii U, looked at it and said, hey, all that stuff, virtual console, streaming apps, free online, all that stuff, we gave all that to Wii U, but it didn't work out for Wii U. I don't think as a company to say, well, that was the reason Wii U didn't do well, right? I don't think Nintendo was like, oh, we gave them streaming, we gave them free online, USB support, all this stuff, and that's why it didn't work out. So we won't give the next console that. I don't think that's how, and not to me, like a smart business would have approached that. And not only that, clearly the Switch is doing very well, right? 85 million plus, right? So you're dealing with a completely new audience that you didn't get on Wii U, who may be more inclined to that stuff. A lot of people who didn't buy a Wii U have been gaming on these other consoles, and they're used to that stuff. So you would think a smart company, a smart business would try to cater to that market as well. That's where I'm kind of coming from with it. Why, regardless of how Wii U did, you have obviously a completely new audience on Switch, along with the hardcore 13.5 million of us. That you're also catering to. I mean, clearly you don't care as much about us as you do those folks, because you put out, $60 ports from Wii U, which we clearly are already bought.
Some of them were $50 originally on Wii U.
Right. So you're, as a company, at least from what I'm seeing, Nintendo, you're not overly concerned with the 13.5 million that bought a Wii U. You're more concerned with the 60 some odd million who currently own a Switch. So why aren't you also catering to them on the stuff that they're also using? Because they do market research. Any company worth their salt, worth their weight, does market research and looks into their customer base and what their trends are. So to me, it's lacking, and it shouldn't be. From a smarter business standpoint. And I feel like there's a lot of people who, I don't want to use terms that Nintendo haters used to use or still use, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of coddling to Nintendo, where they wouldn't be for other companies, like they wouldn't accept that from other companies. Like, come on, like, Sony was about to close their online store, and the internet went crazy. And we're not doing that. I feel like Nintendo fans can get that too, but we coddle too much. And And yeah, Nintendo was different. Let's get it twisted.
Nintendo
That
seems
may
to
not still not move
fuck,
Nintendo.
Though.
Nintendo gonna do what Nintendo does. I mean,
the Mario 35 situation, they didn't give a fuck.
They didn't give a damn, right? They still don't care.
They're like, it's gone. It's gone.
But for me, as a community, as a part of the community, as a fan, I would like to see it. At least we try instead of just throw our hands up automatically. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe they still won't do anything, right? But I would feel better, at least as a fan in the community, that we at least tried to do something. You know, like we tried. You know, Nintendo's being Nintendo, but we tried.
I could say two things, right? Okay, so first things first, and I'm probably going to piss some people off about this, but I want to make this the Overton window from now on going forward. Nintendo Switch is a new home console. It is a successor to Wii U. This is Nintendo's 9th generation offering. Step one. It's a brand new console. It is not backwards compatible with Wii U. It is a completely different architecture. NVIDIA made the entire firmware and everything. Nintendo really, all they did was have input on it. And NVIDIA already created all the drivers and everything that's custom for them. That's why certain games can run way better than they should. Versus if you dial down the specs on the Tegra X1 Shield and tried to run that shit, because Tegra has what by default? Android. And then you try to run a game on top of Android, on top of the Shield, and it's going to be a shit show. But since there's low level firmware that NVIDIA helped build for Nintendo, that it created the Nintendo experience, which is why Nintendo had older consoles that were way under spec on paper, but they provided and achieved the results that you needed. Things like, I don't know, rendering per frame, so you don't need all this extra fucking VRAM to get the resolutions that other consoles need. In addition to that, so that being a new console, they also, at the same time, I know you probably remember this from the announcements too. Remember, Switch, then NX, was supposed to be a completely different environment and infrastructure. For the longest time, and I may be right on this after the fact, but I was believing that NX then at the time was going to be a heterogeneous suite of systems, basically an OS that ran everywhere. Kind of basically what Microsoft is doing right now. Your Xbox One looks just like your Series X and vice versa, and everything you have on it instantly transfers over. And in a roundabout way, that's kind of what Switch is doing with the 3-tiered products they currently have right now. All of them run the same firmware. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking then at the time that's what they were doing, which is why they rewrote everything and deleted everything. So all the old WiiWare stuff is gone. They got rid of all of GameSpy. Anything that tied into eShop or that tied into Nintendo Network then at the time that had something to do with eShop was gone. If it had GameSpy servers, they were deleted. Nintendo started all the way over from scratch, created a new contract with Amazon as far as their being their major content delivery network partner around the world, trying to make this kind of thing happen. So when you have that kind of a drastic change for your network partner, your firmware, your OS, and all that, now you've got to rewrite stuff from scratch. You don't have a Wii base to move everything over to. You don't have a Wii U base to move everything over to. So the only thing you could do is probably convert games one at a time. And seeing how slow it was, kind of slow for a lot of these Wii U ports to come out on Switch, I can only imagine how long it would take the entire back catalog of a virtual console to appear. And I know a lot of people saying, oh, well, the virtual console could just be like how the open stuff is. You just copy the ROMs over. It's a little bit different than that because Nintendo creates their own content ID titles and keys. They have to rewrite everything to make sure that you could buy it and not steal it. So I don't know. It's just a little bit different from there. So I think on the business side of it, it was a completely different project they had to do. And that's not quote unquote Defendo. That's business. Yeah. And I don't know. I want to say they probably did not have the time or the talent to make that happen. They were basically just relying on NVIDIA to build the hardware. And once they found out what the firmware was, they were writing on top of it. So, because Nintendo didn't build it from scratch like they normally do.
I get that. But there are compensations they could have made. Like,
yes, you said, like Terminator Juice said, it's been 4.5 years, so they could have done something since then.
Right. And not only that, but we have this thing called our Nintendo Network ID that's linked to what's this website? What's their website that keeps all of our purchases and all of that stuff? I think they have that still, right? Because I still go in there and I have my coins and my points and all that stuff, and they know what I bought, and they don't know I bought it brand new because I put in a code to keep that. So that is one is that going to help everybody? No, of course not. But as a consumer, I can look at that. At least they're trying to do something, right? Like that's a cool thing. So instead of me having to buy a Wii U port at full price, they know I already bought 3D World. They know I bought Donkey Kong. They know I bought all these games already, and they can tie that to my account. Say here's a digital code for you to get a discount for that game to be brought over. Because when they went from Wii to Wii U. A lot of these games they charged us, right? What, like 50 cents to $1 for some games, to be brought over because of Miiverse and all that stuff. So I understand that.
If you wanted Wii U support, like if you wanted the Game Pass support or whatever,
right? So even with that, even with the new issues because the hardware and all that stuff is different, they still have ties to our accounts. Like my account is still the same from back then. And I mean, it may not be the case for everyone, but at least that's something that I can look at and say, hey, that's a cool thing. Not unlike the 3DS ambassador program, right? Like that didn't benefit everybody, right? Like some people bought it and maybe they were a little too late, or maybe you didn't even care about any of those games, right? That they gave us, but they did something, right? They gave us something as to show some kind of appreciation for people who went out there and spent $259 plus tax on a 3DS, and then a few months later they mark it down to $179. Right? They gave us something. We're like, we care about you guys who supported us. And you don't expect that from a company like that. But that's one of the reasons I like Nintendo, because they do stuff you don't expect a company, a corporation to do.
That. Yeah.
Right. So when people come back at me and say, well, they're a company trying to make business, I'm like, yeah, I understand that. But this is Nintendo. They've always been different. They haven't just been, about making money. At least they haven't, portrayed that. And so that's what my
infrastructure. I think the infrastructure costs have increased so much because before Nintendo Wi-Fi was free, right?
Right.
And it was more of a, hey, we have these couple of servers or whatever you can sign into and all that. And then everything was pretty much peer-to-peer once you connected. And then you go off and you go play brawl with each other. And it was a hot ass mess. But Wii U was the first system with Nintendo Network built in. And then 3DS added it later after the fact. That was the merging of accounts. Your My Nintendo account came over. Levon Cason, shout out, because he put that out in the chat, because I forgot the name of it too. That was the old legacy system. That was even, GameCube. You can look at your GameCube games and you can register all those, and then that will be your account and whatnot. So your My Nintendo account from Nintendo.com merged with the Nintendo Network ID, and the Nintendo Network ID would then work on Wii U and then Switch, and then that's what. Right. That's how all of them talk now. That's how when you go on eShop, you can see money. Like somebody was complaining about the whole the credit card situation, you can't use credit cards on Wii U anymore and all that kind of stuff. Even if that was a thing, it's Japan only right now, I think. Even if that was a thing, like
I thought that was everywhere. But I guess
you can go on Nintendo.com, pay money to put money on your account, and then it shows up on Wii U. So until Wii U doesn't support Nintendo Network or eShop anymore, you can still use a credit card to buy whatever you want on there. Some of these stories come out, and the first thing people do is they jump to, oh my God, it's dead, and then they act like they supported the system the whole time. Let's go buy all this stuff before it goes away. We
live in an era of fake news. Like you have to have the sensational, for people to even click on and read, because most people are just too lazy to read anything anyway, and they would rather have somebody else tell them news. So, and the people who do those videos know that, so they know. A lot of times they got to make something sensational that's not what it is. And a lot of times it's like these people haven't even turned their Wii U's on in, 4 years. So they don't even know themselves about the stuff they're reporting about. So, I have turned my Wii U on. I didn't realize that you could still do the credit card thing. And I have it. So I don't think it's always malicious. I just think sometimes it's just kind of ignorance and, like people just trying to get views and stuff. Because that's how the world works today. It's about, views and likes and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, that was basically it as far as that goes. And the only reason I got a little salty from your response is because you threw old Gretchen Whitmer up in there.
Oh, whatever. That was the first thing that I could find that said what I was saying in the tweet.
Right. Like, and that's another problem with Twitter. Because I look at it, I'm like, that's kind of condescending. It's pretty simple. It's like, I'm not what's his name? I'm not a genius, but I'm a higher learning, educated person, and I can figure things out. And they're pretty simple with her bobbing her head. I was like, oh, you snapping at me now. But again, that's the problem with Twitter. Like,
I try to stay on top of I try to make sure the GIF is at least partially funny. But it's a lot of the times it's not saying exactly what I mean. Like here, so I'm just saying, hey, look, there's 80 million people out here. So obviously, that whole thing
and all that stuff I know. Like none of virtual console, streaming apps, free online. Like I know all this stuff about Wii U.
So, but at that point, if you're I know you're saying that, hey, Nintendo, all the things that Nintendo did that was nice during the Wii and Wii U era. The whole cutting of stock, divesting from investors and all that other kind of stuff so they could buy more of their stock because they knew they weren't performing that well. All those things that they were doing, which looked good towards the customer. Now we have a new set of people here. And the first person that was there was Kimishima, who was the old fogey, I am a profit guy type guy that came in. And then now we have Shintaro, Furukawa. So those people are coming in. I'm not too sure about the new president, but I do know the interim. He was like, I'm carrying whatever Iwata's plan was to max profit, and that's what I'm doing until somebody else comes in. Like literally, that's what was transcribed from all the investor meetings that he had for those 3 quarters or whatever that he was president. So that led me to believe that, hey, well, first things first, they're looking at what works and what doesn't work. So they're looking, hey, we did all this stuff over here for this console, and now we have a brand new console that isn't compatible with the old one. So we can't just drag stuff over. We got to rewrite new stuff. And we're already at 30 mil. Sounds like whatever we did worked. So, and all that stuff we did over there and those people didn't do whatever. I guess we'll get around to them. But as of right now, we're going to push on with what we got. And I think that's kind of because this was Iwata's baby. Switch is Iwata's. I don't know why a lot of people think that
people forget that, but
it was his project from the beginning. NX was his project from day one, from 2015 on. After Nvidia got the design win, that was his baby, and all everybody else is doing is seeing it to fruition, so we can figure out what the hell else is going to happen next. And it's a lot of new people, so I don't know what they're planning, but well, I guess we'll see eventually. But
I just think Iwata, R.I.P. rest in peace. Him at the helm of Switch would be vastly different. That's just, I can't prove that. That's just how I feel, knowing him as a CEO and whatnot. So
I think the public messages would be drastically different. I definitely think that because he's more appealing to the gamer and he knows how to present that image.
Right.
I don't think Reggie would have left, to be honest with you.
I think Reggie probably would still be there.
Yeah, I think he would still be there if it wasn't for him. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a million different things. We got 5 more stuff to argue about. Keep it spicy. We got we can
move on to Joy-Cons in a minute, but
oh man, but that's gonna spoil my video. But yeah,
we don't have to get into. We can
So we got
to address it because I don't remember how we got into Joy-Con. I think that was a different thing we were talking about on Twitter at some point.
Yeah, but you did put a couple good points out in the video you just did though. Talking about the Joy-Con drift and whatnot. And I'm not okay, so the Terminator just put a question in here. I'll get at that in a minute. But there's a couple people in here. We got B More is in here, Sprite's in here. Sprite Remix whooping my ass in Street Fighter. The president of the Crump side is in here, Levon. He put out my Nintendo. Who else we got here? Gwen the Blade Gunner. These are people I haven't seen.
And
12 Feet is in here.
That's just another one of my annoyances is that because I talked about how companies earn to make money, and I talk about how I felt like Nintendo was different. And for me to hear that from somebody who just started gaming on the Wii, it annoys me. It's just like, well, you don't really know. I had it was cordial. Like I had a thing on Twitter with somebody else about talking about Joy-Cons, and I'm like, well, because I feel like a lot of times when it comes to Joy-Cons and drift and whatnot, a lot of people who have something to say about what you have to say, like if I have a negative opinion of them at this point, but if you saw me on my channel 2017 to mid 2018, I love the Joy-Cons. I mean, I completely played through Breath of the Wild with Joy-Cons, split Joy-Cons. That's the entire way I played that.
You're right about the other thing you said, though. People buy these or they bought a Powerade controller and they
bought them right away and they barely touched their Joy-Cons. So it didn't get the wear that mine got, So, after a year or so, I started getting issues. They didn't, because they were using a Pro controller half or more of the time, and I wasn't. So I hate when people try to dismiss, what I feel is a valid complaint. And obviously this is a thing. I mean, there's a class action lawsuit at this point. But
you notice that's one argument I'm not even get when you said that in the thread, I was like, legitimate complaint, go off King, go.
Yeah. I don't really care about that. I mean, that the lawsuit too much, because I don't think it's going to go anywhere, first of all. Yeah. But that's the thing that annoys me. And it's like, so I was trying to explain to this guy about Nintendium, right? Like, Nintendo, that word came out of a reason, because Nintendo products were known to be indestructible, made of Nintendium, right? Like that's where it came from. And so from somebody who started gaming on the Wii, you may not know that. Exactly. I have 4 GameCubes and all of them work brilliantly at this point. I was talking about my GameCube controller, how it still works, my N64 controller. And I know a lot of N64 controllers had issues because of the joystick and the chalking and all that stuff. Like, I mean, mine has it, but this is my day one, and it's snappy, it still works. And I played everything with this. So, it's still going to be a failure rate, right? That's always going to happen.
My outliers that I noticed, and this is if you are actually a Nintendo fan and you're playing these heavily, was, so I'm a Killer Instinct fan, right? I killed the C buttons on the Nintendo 64. The C up button barely registered, because that's what I put for Fierce Punch or whatever, and I was bamming that a lot because I'm Dragon Punches, right? So that motherfucker barely worked if I tried to play Super Mario 64 after that, because the button would end up sticking, so I have to open it up, repair it, and whatnot. And the other issue I had was whatever the material that they used for the start and select buttons on the Super Nintendo controller, that was a real spongy material that over time it literally dissolved. So I will be playing and I'm like, why does it take so long to push this? Why is the start button not working? And then so I'm pressing start, and of course you're naturally just going to push it harder, right? And then over time, now there's this dent where a button used to be, right? And so but that's, I mean, thanks to Alibaba and Amazon and whatnot, you can just order new buttons, put them back in there, and you have brand new controllers.
It wasn't as accessible back in the day, but
that was inaccessible. You couldn't get anything like that back then. So, but it's I
mean, like they obviously the product still, but I'm talking about again at a rate. Of course the products are great, but I've also been lucky to not have issues with any of my, like, everything still works. I think I had one Wii remote that had an issue, but out of all the Nintendo products I've ever bought, they all still work, and they work really well. So I think my day one Wii, because I have 2, I have a black one too, it's starting to have issues with the output, the AV output. It's getting a little janky. But again, those are 2 really minor things in my entire history of Nintendo. And I think most people, my age or have been gaming with Nintendo for that long will probably tell you the same thing. Like, their products last pretty well. So for me to have a failing product, not just 1, not just 2, but 3 sets of Joy-Cons fail within a year and a half, because I have kids, and my kids, they use their hand. They go in handheld mode a lot, so they're using their Joy-Cons a lot more. So that to me was very un-Nintendo like, like
they're normally sturdy.
Right. They're normally very sturdy. And so I, obviously had an issue with that. And so I think the counter argument is that, well, Nintendo has a class action lawsuit against them. They can't basically show their hands as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
they would kind of, if they did that, they're basically admitting fault. Even if they create a new product, they would be at that point. So,
but are they? Because again, they've had other products in the past. They can point to any lawyer worth their weight can say, well, if you look at such and such, throughout Nintendo's history, they've always updated their products and offered new, regardless of any kind of lawsuit or anything like that. They could, they didn't even say one word about because there was D-pad issues in the original Pro controllers. They fixed them with basically the I think it was the Xenoblade Chronicles one.
Yeah,
one that basically fixed
remaking those. Yeah,
right. And then they just continue to use that one beyond that. So I don't see why they can't do this. And if a lawyer brings that up and say, hey, well, they have these new, obviously something's wrong. To me, that's kind of a weak argument. I'm not a lawyer, but that seems kind of weak to say, well, hey, they obviously they feel like something's wrong. They update it. Well, they do that. Every company on the planet updates their hardware within a year or two, even. Apple does it every freaking year. So
yeah, I think at that point it'll just be the money. At that point, it'll be like, who has more money? Is there more money towards the class action to where they could keep throwing lawyers at it every day to argue the same point over and over again versus Nintendo's ninja lawyers? At that point, I think that's what it would have to be. And you're talking about a global company versus a complaint. I think that's only here,
right?
So that would.
The lawsuit is here.
I was gonna say that's the other issue too.
Which is kind of messed up because people all over the world have Joy-Con issues, and just because they haven't filed complaints, I guess, over there, they're not even you can't even send them back in and get them fixed. Like in Europe.
I'm gonna give my Defendo stance, right? And my Defendo stance comes from this perspective. Not in their defense because they're a global company. They don't have an excuse for this. In Japan, and you've probably seen videos of this, you've probably seen fighting game tournaments and all kind of stuff and whatnot. For whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, it doesn't matter if they have big hands or small hands or whatnot, they don't do the mongoloid things that we do with controllers. They do, so just as an example, right? So you know how I would say, how many times have you played a shooter and whatever the click down on your analog stick function would mistakenly come loose when you're just trying to move forward or sprint or whatnot? That would probably happen a lot, right? Because we, for the most part, we have a full ass grip on whatever we're doing with the controller. These guys are in Japan. They're doing this. So, and they're barely touching. So I'm going to guess, and this is a failure really of Nintendo of America at this point, because you have an American product, and I know they did testing. And this hasn't become a thing. He said ridiculous rebuttals. But yeah, these are things.
Not you, but this guy.
But these are things because so these guys are Japan first, right? So they have this product and they're like releasing this product. We're not really getting any complaints in Japan like that. All of a sudden in America, bam, we got these heavy-handed Americans out here. I'm playing ARMS. I'm gripping the fuck out of my Joy-Con. And I'll go into the menu. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey, what the fuck? Who did somebody connect another controller? What's going on? Why is it doing? And then you go and calibrate, and then you find out that you got drift now because you scraped away something on the bottom of this thing, or there's another issue, which I'll get to in the video. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Again, that may be the case for some people. But I've had these American hands on all Nintendo consoles,
yes,
and I've never had.
That's why I said I can't excuse them. You have a whole Nintendo of America arm over here that could have told you that this is going to be a problem, and either Nintendo of Japan didn't listen, or Nintendo of America never told them, or Nintendo of Japan. Normally, what they do is the whole Perrin Kaplan story of how they just out of nowhere flew her to Japan and gave her a Wii remote. And then they gauged her interest and saw how it was or whatever, and then they knew they had a hit. I wonder if that even happened with Switch, especially with all the secrecy and everything, and how Nintendo wasn't doing E3 presentations anymore and all that. and all of a sudden you have, hey, here's Switch, and then we come out with another video in January that's completely Japanese, talking about, hey, this is how the Joy-Con works in 3D space and all this other kind of shit.
Right.
So I'm wondering if that didn't even happen, and if it didn't, there's no way to excuse it either way, but that's complete gross negligence on their part, because that's a global product. You can't. It doesn't matter if we're big dumb American hands and we big dumb American, like, you should be able to account for that. So you put out a pro controller and you fix the issues when our big dumb hands smash the D-pad. So you should be able to. And I get it. Yes, like, it's small technology, but that's not an excuse.
My thing is, like, Dark Angel in the chat here is, it's the materials, and Nintendo doesn't manufacture. They're still responsible, regardless of any of that stuff. They're the company. They're responsible for their product, regardless of who manufactured, who makes it. That's their responsibility. So when I put
out the video for the fix, you'll realize it's probably not the part. It's how it was manufactured.
Yeah, it's how it's manufactured. Yeah, I'm no genius or anything again, but I came to that conclusion, based on researching it.
Yeah.
So
what else could we? Oh, let's argue about Switch OLED.
Yeah,
how you feel about that?
I feel a lot of different ways about it. Again, I don't want to. I'm not trying to be in Nintendo's pocket, or their wallet, and I get. You have to make a profit. That's the point, right? But to me, I feel like this is me just as a consumer. I feel like. And again, based on Nintendo's own history, 4 years in, there's some markdowns going on. There's some cheaper costs for their consoles at that point. Go back through the history. Other than Wii U, but that's because they were making Jack Diddley Squad on that thing. So they had to keep the price where it was. There was a $50 price drop, but beyond that, nothing. And I fully understood that. Again, they were razor thin profit margin on that thing. So, but
this is gross. Read the title at the top of the screen. You see what it says for the for this page? You can't see it there.
So I can't tell.
But
oh no, I can't see that.
If you let me go back to the Google search so you can see it. Look at what that says. Nintendo Switch OLED model. Make the upgrade. So I know before y'all talked on the Juices Loose at one point, and y'all were like, well, maybe it's not marketed for people that already have a Switch. I heard that take at one point, but it looks like from this right here,
they're telling you to upgrade, right?
Yeah, like what the okay.
And I get it. You want to sell your new product to everybody, but then make it for everybody, right? Like that's my thing. Like I have no problem paying more for a Switch, but I need to see some significant things going on for me to pay more for it. And, I don't know how much it costs more to put an OLED screen on the Switch. The estimates were what, $10 or something?
He was saying,
he was saying like less than that.
He said it was like $7 for the screen.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. I think that's like probably off by a few dollars. But, I don't see anything that says $50 more.
So I'll tell you why I think it's appropriate, and the only reason why I'm gonna say it's appropriate is this little facet right here. If I can get to it, definitely not the LAN port. This right. I
was gonna say don't talk on that LAN port.
So this right here, because you're talking about semiconductor shortage. In addition to the price for this NAND has not really gone down over the past 4 years. The 32 gig has gotten a little bit cheaper, but 64 up to 256 gig is still well over 50 cents per gig when you're paying for these. And that's Alibaba or whatever you want to buy bulk. As far as pricing go, 50 cents per gigabyte.
Okay.
So, and you're talking about if you want this, if we're going to go by the prices that Mochizuki is talking about, we're talking about 8 cents per gigabyte at this point, which is probably what 32 gigs is now. But this isn't 32 gigs. This is a 64 gig panel. Nintendo isn't just going to put 32 gigs in there. It's going to be one chip because you got to cool it, right?
Right.
So you got to cool it and you got to power it. If you got 2 modules in there, now you got to double the power. So if you just have 1 module in there, it's not as much voltage because you're still slapping the same battery in there. You still got to promise the same battery life. Okay. So when I looked up the part number for it, so there's a more doable version that you can pay that's more expensive, but the cheapest one, because we're talking about Nintendo now, the cheapest one is right at around 49 cents per gig. And that's gonna put you well over what he's talking about. I think it's gonna be around $12 to maybe $14 per, right? And that's if you buy them at parts per 100,000. So you have to buy 100,000 at a time to be able to sell this at $15 a piece for this chip, so you can get whatever markup that he's going to put in there. So at least $15, at least $15 they spending.
Okay, I'll go with that. I'll take that.
It's not 50, but it's probably 25 that they're paying.
I'll take that as fact. Yeah. Here's my rebuttal.
They could still sell it at 300.
No, not even that. I wouldn't even say that. Is it worth it?
No.
64 gigabytes, is it really doing anything to your Switch? Extra 32 gigabytes? Especially
for us, like you said, I have like mad SD cards. Like I got a 400, I got a 200, and another 200 that I had. I think originally when I first got this, I got a 128, but I pulled it out over phone. So, but I'll be honest, the majority of the storage that I waste on this system, and I think a lot of people don't talk about this, screenshots and videos. And I probably need to go delete a lot of that shit.
Yeah, me too. Videos. That's where all my space is going.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the chat probably, if they're willing to admit it, I think I got like probably at least 200 gigs worth of videos and photos on that damn thing. So games, I don't really use that much, maybe 100 gigs or so worth of games, but we're talking like 4 or 5 big games like I Am Setsuna and a couple other games that are pretty big. NBA 2K is all of the gigs. But usually most of the Nintendo games themselves, I buy the cartridge for, so I'm not using the space. So, but I think that's one of the bigger things. I think that I know you said I'm looking forward to the Steam Deck as well. Let's call it Stream Deck just to be anal. But I'm looking forward to it because I'm a deployment nut, so I just want to see if I can deploy something other than Steam OS on it. I want to put Red Hat, probably Windows or some other stuff on it, and just fool around with it and play with it.
But I mean, that's my thing though, right? Getting back to the story, it's like it's not worth it. Like if you feel like it's worth it, give us a 64 gig model and a 32 gig model, and leave that 32 gig model at or even 329. Let's say 329, right? Give me the choice. Like if I want the OLED, I got to spend $50 more. First of all, for me personally, I don't game handheld mode much on my Switch. I do it.
I think this is heavy.
I like
this is more for, I think, somebody that's playing handheld on the go and you don't want to Switch Lite.
Right.
That's what it seems like. Because if they're like, we'll give you more storage so you don't have to worry about blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, you're probably going to store a lot of them offline on the SD card anyway. I'm thinking.
Right. You're probably already doing that.
Yeah. So why would you? There's almost no point in that. Maybe for some of the bigger games that are coming down the line.
Right.
I'm thinking maybe that, because like I don't think, and that's the other thing that Mochizuki got wrong too. He said 64 gig cart, so it will be out in late 2018.
Yeah.
Then he repeated it again in 2019, and we're still
like here's my thing with Mochizuki and just that kind of stuff, that kind of
he's not talking
reporting in general. Like I find it kind of funny because when he reports stuff that people want to hear, they love it. They love it, right? They everybody was dipping and diving and flipping and flying about Switch Pro, right? Everybody, they loved that idea, the Switch Pro. Everybody got excited. This outlet that shared, everybody shared it. But the minute he said something that people would construe as a dig at Nintendo, this guy is a terrible person. Like, wait a minute, all this time, I don't mind that you feeling that way. You could be right. He might be terrible and all, but all this time he was doing these things that you liked and you had no problem with them. But all of a sudden now there's an issue with them. And that's not the same people all the time. The thing is also is that the people who, I'm losing my train of thought here. One at the Switch Pro and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. That were clamoring for it, trying to will it into existence.
Right. A lot of those people got mad, but where am I trying to go with this? I had a good point. I'm trying to make it here. So yeah, we're talking about so the rumor stuff. So people are like, oh, he, blah blah blah. But when they're talking about people who do rumors and stuff, they'll tell you about, oh, he got this right, he got that right. He got this, and they won't tell you the 5,000 things the person got wrong.
Yes,
right. So they're trying to validate this source, because all the guys leading up to the reveal of the OLED, basically, we're saying, oh, we know it, we pretty much feel it's true. Bloomberg is a reputable, they're not some gaming, they're not some lowly gaming website, they're reputable, blah, blah, blah. So when it served them well to boost Bloomberg up, Bloomberg was, oh, they're reputable, they got it right. But the minute they abandoned them, just like that, the minute, they didn't get their Switch Pro, I just think that's kind of hilarious.
So for me,
hypocritical and hilarious.
I've been following that dude for a minute, so I knew he's been off for a while, and this is why
he's been off.
Yeah, this is why Dr. Trey muted me, because I told him, I said, this dude, Laura Kate Dale, and Emily Rogers, they haven't been 100%. And he's like, well, they're legitimate sources. I'm like, no. And I was like, he mentioned something about, well, she got Switch right. I was like, no, she didn't. She posted almost 2 months after Semi-Accurate posted in April.
Right. I don't know.
April of 2016, they said NVIDIA has the chip for this. And I was looking like, they're a pay site, but they don't really get shit wrong. They got the PS3 right, the PS4 right. And I'm like, so they go actually to the manufacturers. They go to Foxconn and all that. And that's
when you're a pay site, you really want to get that right. Because people, you get stuff wrong, people bounce, like that's your livelihood. So
he didn't like hearing that. So he was like muted for now. And I was like, all right, cool, dude. But he comments every once in a while. And I'm like, all right, well, I follow these dudes and I see what they get right and what they get wrong. And then I look at what their source is, and their source is another analyst. And the other analyst isn't even sourcing like a manufacturer or anybody that, like, the Foxconn leak was the true leak, because that came from the factory. The demo they were talking about were the fish in Super Mario Odyssey. Right. They were talking about how the Joy-Con, the buttons on the Joy-Con, what they were named, the size of the actual chip, 100 millimeters squared, and the second one that was 200 millimeters squared, which would end up being a development model with 64 gigs in it. So this isn't the first time Nintendo has made a 64 gig model.
No.
HAT002 is the development model that has 64 gigs in it. They developed one on.
And that led to more Switch Pro speculation. I'm like, come on, man.
Get out of here, man.
Can you just give up at this point? Like, that's my thing. Like, I've never cared about a Switch Pro. Like, that has never been my issue. Like, I have a video talking about respect the power of the Switch. Like, in its form factor and at its price, how can you not? You have to be way too entitled to not give this thing's credit its credit due. And so I never really cared that much about any of that stuff.
So one thing I will agree on with Trey is the irony is that now, after all of this Switch 4K bullshit, and from when Switch first came out, 720p isn't good enough. Why you got this tiny screen? Can't nobody. I'm like, it's coming from a 480p screen on Wii U, and it's 6 points. It's in your hand, like
it makes no sense. You don't need to 1080p screen because it's negligible, the difference. It's not, unless you're doing VR, you're using the screen for VR, then it would benefit you. But
720p at this distance is better eye relief than a 65-inch screen from your couch.
Right.
It's not enough pixel density. There's more pixel density in that handheld screen than there is at the TV on the wall. Yeah. But if you want to, you tell somebody that math, they're like, I don't like that math.
I think Valve just confirmed that with the with the Steam Deck, right? Like they put a 700 or 800p screen on it. Like that's all. And now
everybody's like, I want to play it. Oh my god, it's 800p. I'm like,
wait a minute.
Sub HD again? So y'all good with that now?
I'm confused here. Doesn't make any sense, man.
And so Jack Gates put that out, and that was one of the other things that I wanted to talk about on my channel. It seems like, and I hate to say it, it just seems like they're trying to force, and this has actually worked in the past, where the press and the vocal minority are literally forcing companies into positions because they set what the Overton window is. They say, oh, well, Sony did this, so I guess everybody else need to do this. And now Microsoft's like, what the fuck do we need to do? And they're thinking Nintendo's going to do that. And I'm like, y'all know Nintendo are the OGs, right?
They don't care about
Sony and Microsoft are the newcomers. Why aren't y'all setting standards based on what they do?
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother... And I get it. Gamers have standards and stuff moves on. I had this argument a long time with Mandy and some other people on, YouTube, Twitter, what have you. And the standards are not what gaming press tells you. The standards are what you want as a customer, not what somebody told you. You play a game. How do you want to play that game? Do you want a game that's engaging? Do you want a game that isn't fucking broken? Okay, then why are you being told, hey, accept this broken ass game just because it looks a little pretty at the beginning? Look at this cutscene and then play a lot of broken mess after that. Like, why? That appears to be what most gamers want because a minority of people said this is what it will be. And the majority of developers do whatever. And like one of the other things we said on Jay's podcast was, why is the standard? So now we really need to know, because why is the standard Switch hardware isn't capable enough for X and X port? It has never been a situation, especially on Nintendo hardware, where the developers or the publishers themselves made responsible for say, hey, look, go develop for that hardware. You know how y'all used to do when there was a Genesis version and a Super Nintendo version, and you had to make a completely different fucking game because it was completely different logic and a completely different freaking language that you had to develop for versus Super Nintendo. Like it wasn't even the same code. Like it wasn't something that you could just plug and play and just dump. So, and there seems to not be any accountability for that, especially with the press. They never go and just say, yeah, so this version of the game is running real bad. Why'd y'all fuck that up? Yeah. Instead of just saying, oh, it's the hardware's fault. When the fuck do you blame? When do you see a guy wreck a car and then blame the car?
That's starting to happen a lot more.
But that's kind of that's kind of what, only in this industry do we see this foolishness. And
my thing is, I mean, I have Witcher 3 on Switch, and
they did a lot of work.
Can run on Switch and run well. It clearly it's not going to look as good as a high-end PC version of it, but it runs pretty well. Like it runs really well. It looks fine. I mean, does it look great? No, but it's very, very playable. It looks nice. You can play it fine. I play it on my big screen all the time, and I have no issues doing it. So if that can go
in less than a year's time,
if that game with its it has a lot going on, so if that game can run, I mean, the fact that they put that game and it's 2 large DLCs on a cart, like I just don't understand why nobody else can do that. Like, I think Nintendo did help out with some of that, so with the cost and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that obviously alleviates it. But again, that's we're talking about that's a way bigger game than most of the stuff that would be coming.
Yeah.
So,
but that's a self-report right there, because Nintendo had to do the publisher's job.
Yeah.
And that should never be the case for a third-party game. If you're a third-party game and you're that great, I mean, you should be able to have that great game everywhere. And the onus is on you as the publisher to say, hey, look, we're going to pay to make sure that this works on this platform. And we're not going to blame the platform because our coders are excellent. So wherever they go, they should be able to do a great job. And it wasn't even the developers of Witcher. It was Saber Interactive that did all this work.
Right.
But I'm like, yeah, give them whatever money they need and whatever time they need to make sure that it's good. So imagine if they had the same 3 to 4 year window that the original, Witcher developers had to make this game for Switch from the ground up.
Yeah.
And these are the things that are never considered when they come up with this, hey, Nintendo makes weak hardware. And I get it. Yes, you want to look at the numbers and say that they're lower. But we're talking about a console. We're not talking about a PC. The whole entire point of them having an advantage is because they have a stripped down OS that you don't have to deal with. There's no bloatware. You're running direct code directly to RAM. So
it's easier. That's why
yes,
it's easier on other systems to just plop your almost your PC build and just drop it onto without really that much optimization. You're not doing much as far as trying to get the size of it down, because these games don't need to be 90 gigabyte. I mean, they don't need to be that big, right? So but it's just easier to do it that way. And so when you have, you know, two systems and then PC, and it's easy, you know, I won't say easy port, but it's a much easier port to just, you know, drop that thing over on there, drop it over there, and you're good. Whereas Switch, you got to do some work. You have to put in some work.
So, and that's why I came up with the video with the elephant in the room. I did that video for the Wii U too. I just said, look, this is obviously clearly now, because y'all said this thing was dead in the water when it tried to compete with the PS4 and the Xbox One, and it was still market leader. Then you said it was going to die when the PS5 and the Series X came out, and it's still market leader. I don't know what else that needs to be said other than why isn't Switch lead platform then? Because now you have no excuses. You have no issues with porting per se, because you're coming from Switch. Who can't port a game from Switch to Series X and PS5 at that point, or PC? Like, how can't you do that? So
there's a fear of having Nintendo be the market leader. I mean,
having all the games too. That would be the fear.
Right. There's a fear.
We know that's the true reason, but they come up with all these excuses and they do everything backwards. So like, but it was never a problem when PlayStation had the weakest platform.
Yeah.
PS1, PS2, those are the weakest platform, and PS2 was lead platform on a lot of games, like straight up, to the point where GameCube and Xbox they got some bad ports from PS2. So like when a PS2 game looks better than a GameCube or Xbox game, something's wrong.
I mean, right. That has nothing to do with hardware, clearly.
Yeah.
So I mean, that happens. That's been happening. It's going to continue to happen, unfortunately. But
I think this is a joke here. Getting back to this anyway, the enhanced audio. All they did was not point the speakers toward the floor.
Yeah. So as far as it being an upgrade, for me, it's not, because first of all, again, I don't play all that much in handheld mode. I don't see the point of this, but I already have. I already used that extra USB for my LAN, adapter. So
no need for the built-in one, because it
doesn't really it doesn't benefit me really at all. And I love
that was the USB 3 port too. It's gone. There's no USB 3 now. That was the USB 3 port.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the USB 3. I don't want to lose that. And I, honestly, I just love my Switch better. I love my modded Switch and what I did to it better. That's my Switch Pro. So
what I do like about it is this guy right here. This looks nice. I definitely, because I
will never use
it. The stand that comes with the Switch is trash.
It's trash. It is garbage.
It falls off all the time. It clips off all the time. Even with a brand new one, it only takes a couple of times you're using it before it gets back to that flimsy I flop around state.
Right. And it's trash. I mean, it's garbage. This thing is.
Yeah, that's
I can't even use it with these Joy-Cons on here anyway. But
just take it off and expose the SD card. Just keep it moving. Put some tape over it.
It's trash. But I have a battery. I don't think it's close to me. It's over there somewhere. I think it's who makes those battery attachments? Battery packs.
Oh yeah, you have the big giant battery pack.
Starts with an N.
Nike. Oh, hold on.
I want to say Nikon, but that's the
Nyko, right?
Nike. Yeah, Nike.
Yeah, Nike.
Yeah. So, and that comes with a bigger stand on it, and that stand is good. So I don't I don't need it, and I get extra battery life on top.
I will say why I like this though. The reason why I'm trying so hard not to spend $350 on this damn thing, but it's so the color scheme, which appears to be exclusive for some reason. I don't know if they're going to sell those separately or not.
They probably will. I don't see them not selling those.
I want that. I want the dock, because the dock itself looks nice. Apparently, I do
like the dock. That's one thing I actually do like. I like the look of the dock, but I don't want to lose my USB 3.0.
I think they're going to replace all, because you can't find the regular docks anymore. Yeah. They appear to stop producing them, so I guess this is what they're going to replace it with. And the reason I want it because of this right here. And so I explained this before,
because that was a problem with Switch too, is the overheating.
Yes, and that little slot over there sits right over where the processor. The
cracking has been happening.
Yep, all the heat gets right there and it starts swelling. Yeah. So the right here in this area is where the SoC is, and then there's a heat pipe going up to the fan up here. Mm-hmm. But if you eliminate the heat here, and there's a heat source to come out, and I was talking about another thing too, is that I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes the Switch won't adjust. Like you'll take it on and off the dock or whatever. Like if you take it off the dock too fast, it won't adjust to you being in battery mode, and it'll still have the fan kicking and it's still in the high clocks and whatnot, and it'll just stay that way and it'll kill your battery. Yeah. And vice versa. Like you'll put it in the dock and it's still in battery mode, so everything's still like sub 480p. Like what the fuck are we doing? And then you got to turn it off, turn it back on to get it to readjust or whatever. So even then, like depending on how you play with it, you'll get a subpar experience if you don't let it adapt or you don't do what you need to do to force it to adapt, which is kind of crazy. But in terms of just, I should have to pay $350 for an actual decent kickstand.
Because for a lot of people, that's going to be your only true upgrade. Like I have a 400 gigabyte SD card. I don't need more storage. I don't need any of that stuff. So I'm in love with the dock and the color for the Joy-Con. So, I swear to God, if they make that, I would just buy that separately if it's a reasonable price.
If they make it exclusive, I'd be so mad. Because I would just buy those.
I thought they said they were going to sell them separately.
I hope so. I knew that they said they were going to sell the stand separately.
They said the dock. Yeah. I think they said the dock. I don't know about the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, the dock will be separate. I mean, if there was a way for them to put that stand on after the fact too, that'd be great. But obviously they're not going to do that.
Somebody's going to sell,
something similar.
Even if it's third party, they'll sell a back. I mean, basically that's all it is. It's just the back part, So you pop this off, and it's pretty easy. Like you don't have to deal with anything major. It's just
it's just a different back plate.
Yeah, and just put the new back plate on, and it'll do the same thing. So,
so how I feel about this, Nintendo's just maximizing profit. So we saw this.
Yeah, I mean that's obvious. That's my problem.
We saw it in January, right? This is Alla. This is the name of this model. This was the ABCD model that all the hackers found in the firmware in January. That's what this model was, because it was obviously still the same.
But there's more RAM. There's a Switch Pro coming. There's more RAM in the kit. And bro, that's for debugging.
That's they're building bigger games, so they need more of this stuff in here before they start crunching it down to 3 gigs. Right. Like, I mean, that should.
No, man, the Switch Pro is still coming, man. Switch Pro still coming. 2023
in 10th generation. Yes, it is. It's coming in 10th. So,
it's gonna be Switch 2.
So Nintendo still operates. I believe. I think they're still going to stick, because they're like, fuck what Microsoft and Sony are doing. They're going to stick to their 4 to 6 year cycle, and they'll come out with the new hardware. So we're coming up on this is the official 5th year now, I think, for Switch.
Yeah, we're in the 5th year right now.
So coming around year 6, that'd be 2022, 2023, we'll probably see an announcement, and it'll be, hey, this is the next whatever it is. I mean, it could be Wii U all over again. Who knows?
Right.
Knowing Nintendo, it wouldn't surprise me if they did, but it's just crazy.
Yeah, you never know.
Why do they want to force them to do? I don't understand. Why would anybody want Nintendo to be a Sony? Like,
I guess for them it would be the ultimate thing. Like I love having the power and all that stuff, but I also love Nintendo games. So if you merge that together, give me crazy power and Nintendo games at the same time, then I'll be happy. I won't need anything else.
Yeah, if that's the case,
I won't need to have 5 systems. I'll just buy the Nintendo system because it has all the third party and has all the. But I don't think that'll ever happen. Even if Nintendo had all the power, I don't think they would.
We saw when Nintendo had the power, they changed the argument. So they went from the GameCube proved it, and to some extent N64 proved it. All they did was just say, we don't have enough space, so therefore space is what make games now, not polygons per second. So, and then obviously it went to bump mapping and all these other effects that PS2 couldn't do. So they would just say, well, the Xbox can do it, so there's no reason to get a GameCube. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but okay. And GameCube was getting all the PS2 ports for the most part, with the exception of your Grand Theft Auto or what have you. And it was weird to me to see Capcom and all these major third parties basically say that the N64 cartridge was too expensive. But then you got people making people like, I don't know, I can't think of the company's names, but you have games like Chameleon Twist, they have no problem buying these carts. If they can afford it, why can't Capcom? And it just always seemed weird to me, come on. It's a lot of the FMV situation and all that. And then I'm like, Factor 5 works for Nintendo, right? You know they sell all the tools that you need to solve that problem. Yeah. And Angel Studios did it for Capcom. So
Resident Evil 2 came out and shut all that nonsense down. Like, like what are you talking about? You can't.
And everybody just looks the other way. Like, I don't. Yeah. On to the next goalpost. But so are we agreeing or are we disagreeing? Because like I see the business side of it.
I think we're. My disagreeing is only in the phrasing of, again, about the Switch Online and who deserves it. And that's my disagreement. Like, I don't agree. I will never agree with the fact or the belief. Even if you're right about the people who are complaining about it, that still doesn't mean
it doesn't
Switch Online shouldn't be better than what it is, right? Yeah. Like, so I will never agree with that premise, but. I mean, we're both Nintendo fans here. I think we mostly agree.
Yeah. It's so to me, I guess because I have my personal experience and the experience that I've seen with laymen as far as Switch Online goes. And when I'm talking about Switch Online, I'm not majority of the time when people complain about Switch Online lately anyway, especially on Twitter, is just talking about the game releases. And I'm more like the service itself. What you actually get for it, which were things that you didn't really get before. So you have your official.
No, I mean, it's not the premise of NES Online. That is not a bad premise. That is great, actually.
It's just a
release. Should it be more robust? Yeah, it should be. But here's the thing. Again, let me make the choice. How much do you think they charge? How much do you think it costs for them to run NES Online?
Oh, nothing for them because it's just the same emulators that were on Virtual Console.
But if they were to charge, $7 or $6.99 or $7.99, even a month, and they had a bigger library, that would be pretty acceptable. Like everybody, I think, would accept that, right?
So you would just want it as a separate service,
yes.
And then so you pay for the online.
Like, I'm already upset that you're making me pay for online, to begin with. Coming from the history, but okay, I'll accept that. But don't force me then to pay for a service that I'm never going to use. I never used. I have not one use.
You have a Wii U. You'll just go play it there,
right? Like I played on my Wii U, or I played on my mini consoles, or whatever else. So
it's really strange they did that because you had the NES Classic and the Super NES Classic that sold out damn near every time they put them out.
They didn't even exist.
And then they're just like, we're gonna put these same games out if you subscribe to this service, and then we're gonna sell you the same controllers that were on the NES and SNES Classic as a bonus for subscribing for a discount of the same price you would have paid for a mini console. And that was kind of
Nintendoing. Like that's what they mean. That's what Nintendo does every once in a while. It drives us insane. But
that's really weird. And I wonder, I guess the only thing I would have bought them for was to use them for other games. Like your indie games or whatever. Like I don't even know if it supports them. I guess it should because it supports the GameCube controller now. But I don't know the reason of buying a virtual console controller NES online controller, SNES online controller to play SNES games when this controller is pretty damn good. And I mean, the Joy-Con, even if you turn the Joy-Con sideways, they're pretty decent. I mean, for those games anyway, because they're limited. Like, there's not that many buttons on NES or SNES like that. Right. So I don't really see. I didn't really see the point of them selling those controllers like that. And then the NES one, I think, sold out for a while.
Right.
Which is crazy because people are buying them. I don't see. Nintendo is seeing something that we're not seeing because they're like, these suckers are buying this shit. And I'm like, I ain't pay for that. But
how much money would they make for?
Oh, they make a killer because you're talking about monthly now.
GameCube Online, everybody wants that. N64, like if they just drop all their they don't have to drop it at once, obviously, over time. All their first party stuff, all their first party content that you don't have access to anywhere else. If they just did that, I don't need that. I love playing my retro consoles. Like I personally don't need it, but if I had a choice between that and what they do with NES and SNES Online, I'd choose that, right? Like that made more sense to me. Maybe once in a while I would jump in there because it's convenient. It's convenience. That's the biggest thing. It's like your new console, I can play all your old games on it. At least, the ones I want to play.
The only benefit I have to this service, NES Online, and definitely NES Online, because SNES Online, I've played a lot of those games. A lot of NES Online, those obscure games, I either have never played before or played them a long time ago and didn't even remember what the title of the game was, and I wanted to go finish playing that game.
Right.
So a couple of those, like Breakthrough and some other games, I never got them on Virtual Console, and I'm like, well, it's here. I'm gonna go run through it real quick, and then that's fun, whatever. Because that's the type of stuff that by discovery you learn some of these things. So I think the obscure games thing is actually good in that case.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with them.
It pisses off a lot of games because the other stuff isn't there yet.
It's only because they went from a monthly thing to a kind of whenever we feel like it thing, and then so you're waiting, longer to get obscure games. I think it's kind of like the Metroid Federation Force thing, right?
Yeah,
like there's nothing wrong with that game. That's actually a decent game. It's just that we had been waiting for so long for a new Metroid game. That's what you're going to put out?
That's marring expectations.
Right. Yeah. So, and because these games, they look fine. There's nothing, I don't see anything wrong with them. They're not bad games, I don't think, from what I see of them. That's actually a really good idea. But that's also a case for adding consoles to that mix, like N64. Because there are some games that are super expensive, like who just mentioned that? Jay Biggs, I think. No, it was Nindy Gamer. He's like, well, if you want to play Path of Radiance on GameCube, good luck, son.
Good luck.
Like luckily, I have it. I bought it back then, but not everybody did that. And those games are like, $350, $400 just for a disc.
And it's $150 for Phantasy Star Online,
right?
Like, just for GameCube. Like on Dreamcast, it's cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap on Dreamcast, but GameCube is just like it's expensive, and it's just like, why not make that a thing? I mean, here's the thing:
they know they have value.
Add value to it. Like after 2017, I fully expected Switch to be my all-out favorite Nintendo console of all time, probably my favorite console of all time, and because I was expecting these things that I'm talking about to happen. Now, is that maybe entitled? I guess. I mean, that's it's kind of entitled. You can't expect a company to do something, and I'm not mad at that they didn't do these things, but it's just kind of mind-boggling that they don't do these things. Like it's a bunch of small little. To me, in my mind, obviously, it wouldn't take a whole lot to get it there.
The only pushback I have on that is we heard these same complaints before with the original Wii and Wii U doing their releases, because some of those releases took a little bit.
They complained about Wii, especially Wii U. It was more on Wii U.
By 2015, they were all there. So but this is year 4.5 for Switch, like Terminator said. So it should have some type of
right.
But I think it's only year 3 for Switch on. No, because Switch Online was free.
Switch Online was 20. It was free. It's up until fall 2018.
So really, from day one, it was kind of around because it was like a month or something after Switch came out. I think the beta came out, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. Chat, let me know I don't know what date that the beta started for Switch Online, but so they had the demo first, and then they started coming out with the NES Online
September 9th or somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was one of those, and then the following year you had to pay. So so it's been at least 3 years of that. They had plenty of time to start saying, you know what, let's put our heavy hitters out there, especially for celebration. So if it's the 30th anniversary for Zelda or the 25th anniversary for Mario, why are you not going out and saying, you know what, Super Mario RPG, let's throw that thing on, boom,
right?
Yeah, and just have a giant celebration of all of everything on there. Like that should have happened, and I don't, whatever. I don't know what they got going on.
We know you got GameCube emulator. We know you got,
clearly.
We know you have because you have.
They put it in the Mario game.
Right. So we know you got N64, right? We know you have these things, and you just refuse. Again, for me, I'm not really advocating as much for me, but not everybody is in my situation where they have a billion toys. They don't have all this stuff sitting in their house like I do. So
for me, for Switch Online to be better, they have to get a faster CDN partner. But I think that's really all consoles need to do that, because I look at some of these download speeds on some of these consoles, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Series X, I think, is the only console where whatever bandwidth you give it, it's gonna pull.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, that's probably going to depend on where you live. But where I live right now, the fastest speeds I get are going to come from Series X. The PlayStation 5 is capped. The PS4 is capped. Every other console before that is capped. And Switch is capped more than Wii U was. So Wii U was 50 up and down. Switch is 25 up and down. So you talk, that's the max speed you're going to get. I think at one point I may have gotten 37 megabits per second down on Switch. And that's 5 gigahertz, as close as I am to the router, trying to pull as fast as possible. And that's ridiculous. It shouldn't be that slow, but they do that because they want to manage, I guess, how much bandwidth is coming through. And I'm like, dude, y'all need to figure that out, because there's no reason for that. And you can't blame it on the hardware itself, because the hardware writes at 400 megabytes per second. So it's not the hardware.
Not the
itself.
hardware.
And it's not the NIC, because the NIC is, it's got a Bluetooth 4.2 module in it. So the wireless NIC in it is anywhere between 800 megabits per second, and probably full AC speeds, which is 1.2 gigabits per second. So it's not the wireless card. It's not the NAND flash storage on the Switch itself. Like, you should be downloading no slower than 200 megabits per second on that thing. If you had full speed. But it's like, I don't know, you're dealing with some type of partnership that they have with whoever they want to get their data as quick as they can to you, or a bunch of people to get their stuff as quick as they can to you, so there are no hiccups. And whoever their nearest neighbor is that they pay for, they're capping. I sit there and I look in Packet Tracer all the time. I'm like, wow, so this whole session is 50 one way, both ways. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It shouldn't be that slow. But so that's my biggest complaint about Nintendo Switch Online. The actual latency, I don't really have a problem with it as long as I use 5 gigahertz. So all these complaints I hear about wireless, like, I'm not getting that. So, and I know, like, if I'm playing, I play Smash Online with Alex or whoever, whatever, I can tell when I've switched to 2.4, because everything will start fucking spamming out. As soon as I go to 5 gigahertz, I have decent speeds and I'm good, and I have no latency when I'm looking Wireshark. So it's just, to me, it's one of those things where I think they should have definitely had the LAN port on Switch to begin with, not because of the technology itself, but because of people. Because people they don't know how to do what I'm doing by default. They just connect, hey, what's my wireless access point? And I have the shittiest internet known to man, and I have the shittiest wireless known to man. I'm going to connect. Why are people kicking me? Why they don't want me in the group? Why they don't want me, blah, blah, blah? Why when I voice chat, it spazzes out? Like, not
everybody's in tune to this tech and is knowledgeable about it. So,
like, I'm on this stream right now. This PC is wireless right now. This is 802.11 AC that you're using right now. So if I try to keep everything that way, and I try to manage everything that way, so I know what I'm paying for. Right. If I paid for a router to provide me with this, I'm gonna fucking use it. So, and that's why I try to. This is my fault, because every time I say, hey, this is what you need to do, they're like, well, when are you going to put this video out, Shadow? And I'm like, it's been 6 years now, and I still haven't done it. And I need to do it and keep up with the tech and put it out. But you just have to, you got to know what you have, man, because you will end up getting latency even if you're wired. So if you've got a shitty router, or you're not managing your packets coming in and out, you're going to be worse than me wireless. So it's just how it is. It's impossible having those conversations on Twitter with certain people. Entirely
especially
impossible.
On Twitter. Again,
it's ridiculous.
We cross wires on Twitter too. So, we're almost basically saying the same stuff. So I can imagine with somebody who doesn't want to give you any merit in what you're saying. So
somebody said 5 gigahertz less saturated than 2.4 gigahertz. Yes, that is correct. But know your limitations. That 5 gigahertz means you have to be somewhat closer to an access point or have a wireless mesh set up in your house. Because if not, you're not going to be able to reach, and it's going to switch to 2.4 on you, and you're going to be in a shit show. Right. So you just have to know.
That happened to me before.
So, we pretty much got decent engagement here. I was looking at some of the questions here. Somebody said, where's that Switch Pro video? I did it on Jay's podcast. I didn't do it on my own, but I'll do another one. I'll do a separate one for Switch Pro, which is it's got to come because I must bring pain to Super Metal Dave, and that's just kind of what has to happen because that dude, he said everything possible, every excuse, every technological advance he said was going to be in the Switch Pro, and yeah, none of that came to fruition. The other thing that I wanted to say about Mochizuki was, like, nobody followed him. They're just like, hey, he's Bloomberg, so throw Bloomberg's name out there. No, this is an individual. This individual was also working for Wall Street Journal saying the same fuck shit.
He's an indie contractor. He's not.
Yeah, he's a contract. He's gonna take money from whoever pays him.
Right.
He was the same guy that said there's gonna be sharp exo screens in this same Switch model. Obviously, that's not there. Then the OLED screens that were supposed to be coming, they were supposed to be coming from another company and not Samsung, right. And Samsung is doing these.
And my perspective is I can't get as mad at him as I could get at the people promoting his stuff when it served them. You know, like he's gonna do what makes him the most money, right? So my issue is with people who now want to destroy the guy, but before it was like, oh no, it's reputable. He got all these other things right, blah blah blah. Narrative stuff. So, we have to be more responsible as well. We have to take some responsibility.
Yeah, the Terminator said, but the point is,
I got to get out of here soon, though. My wife is.
We'll close this out. He was talking about wired is simple and doesn't require network and grid to set up. These are facts. Yes, that's true. Yeah. I think that's why Nintendo should have included it and that's why they're saying, hey, for Smash or whatever, use a LAN adapter to play Smash or whatever, because they know the majority of people that play wireless, they're gonna have a shit set up.
Yeah.
So
the people who they would tell, who would understand that, already are doing that, right? Yeah. Like, so they're not reaching the people who they probably need to reach as far as that goes. So if they knew that from the beginning, just put the damn LAN adapter on the thing and be done with it, right? So
I definitely get it, because I think I played Halo 2 that way. So the way I played Halo 2 was I had the wireless NIC going to a wireless bridge, and then I was using it that way. And it was very low latency, but it was also very low bandwidth. So I had to make sure that it was not that big of a jump from the wireless bridge to my wireless router. Because anytime I increased that space or moved the wireless router anywhere else, I had a lot of dropouts. So, and that was 802.11b back then. So imagine, technology is obviously advanced since then, and a lot of the old wireless myths are super dead. But I appreciate you coming on, man. It's it's way better to clear the air on here than
that's why I wanted to do it, because
post annoying gifts back and forth.
Right. Snapping, I'm trying to one up you, one up me. Oh, I got a better gift than you got.
It's like we're playing spades. It's ridiculous, but kind of foolishness. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward. I'm looking forward to what's coming here. I think I'm still gonna buy this damn thing. I don't want to get it, but I don't know. I just feel like
I'm money for Steam Deck, because that's a better Switch. That's a Switch Pro.
Yeah, I gotta get that too. My thing is, I'm worried about all of your Steam library coming, because a lot of those games are Windows native only, and since this thing only runs SteamOS unless you reload it, it has to use a wrapper to play them, and a lot of those games will need some type of patch or something to go with those to make sure they work well. So I think that might be a little problem going back and forth, especially if you're playing on PC. And then I think they mentioned another issue too when they were trying to promote it on IGN. That was a big fucking commercial. But they were like, hey, when you play on Steam, we want to make that as snappy as possible. So you go from your PC directly to your I'm trying not to say Steam Deck. And then there's like zero transition. There's going to be a transition because you got to sign into Steam and then make sure that your saves aren't conflicting, and then you're able to go from there. He said, do I think Nintendo pulls a $399 model Switch? Jesus Christ, no. But knowing Nintendo, if they did it, it would still sell.
Yeah. But I think at that point, at that price point, it would be something significant.
It would have to be at $400. Like that's
because they've never gone that high.
Yeah, they're pushing it with $350.
Is as high as they've gone.
Yeah, $350 that's what Wii U sold as. Yeah. So like they're pushing it for $400. That'd be a first for them. Yeah. So I guess we'll have to see what the new Nintendo Switch is going to be, whatever that is going to be coming forward. But we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I gotta head on out myself anyway, try to figure out what we're going to eat tonight and go from there. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. So, but I appreciate you coming on, fellow Nintendo fan, and having all the things going on. Apparently, my son is better at artwork than me, so he drew my logo better than me. But I'm just trying to establish stuff together. I would like to have you to come back on another ShadowCast where I bitch about less technical stuff for a shorter period of time. So
I'm with it.
So we can definitely do that. Yeah, GGs they saying in the chat. I see down there, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap it up and call it a day. I appreciate you guys coming out. Y'all check me out on Twitter, destroying souls and pissing off Mizzah Tee with gifts. And we'll see y'all later, man. Y'all have a good one.